This video is for ages 13 up because our Grand Convoy for Micro Legend is now Trauma Truck and also
What the fuck is a kilometer?
hello, it is me, Nichelle, aka Five Spiders, finally with everyone waiting for the deep analysis, the Grand Convoy video for Transformers, Energon, and Superlink. If you want to watch my review on the show, here's the title card, as I won't really need to talk about my thoughts on the show when I already have done it already. So go there and watch it, because it is short 20 minutes of your time, then come back here. I'm going straight into this analysis, so strap yourselves in, as we're going to have a bumpy ride. As I'm not in this hell with you, you're in hell with me. So we're finally here. I'm glad you made it. Congratulations. Of course, let us talk about the events of Energon/Superlink universe. It has been 10 years since the events of Micro Legend. Everything is all good. The war of the Autobots and the Decepticons has ended. The ones that are left behind in the Decepticon cause is Demolisher, Tidal and Cyclonus, etc., who are put back to work as they are equal to each other, much to Demolisher's antics. The Cybertronians have made bases to mine Energon on different planets, not just Earth, and Grand Convoy being the usual leader as always, like he has since Micro Legend. However, there is slightly something different about Grand Convoy's personality. He is the same character, but the consequences of Unicron and what Double Face said to him still scares him to the core. For the past 10 years, Grand Convoy has training himself and other Cybertronians to become new warriors to fight against the threat. It's inevitable that Unicron will come back. The fear that if he dies once again, Convoy wants to know things will be okay when he's gone. Our boy Convoy has been traumatized, and I don't blame him for his personality. He has been through something that is unexplainable in the surviving fight within Unicron. Megatron and himself were showing off their pride as warriors. Even though he lost the beaded red-eyed darkened form given from a wave of power from Unicron, the effect is brief, but his mind's still there. Convoy has delved too deep. He can't go back and live a blissful life, or he can't go back to things that made sense. Like I said in the previous video, he has learned to let go of things and feel less hate for Megatron, as he has accepted his darker half as the robot he was born into. All Cybertronians feel that sense of pride to fight, or their sense of dominating each other of who can be on the top. That is their old traditions, if what Rampage says is true about the lore of Cybertron. Of course, things have changed, and the irony that the pattern of behavior still sticks with them as instinct. Convoy has to let go of his inner demons and accept that part of himself. The whole series of Energon Superlink is Convoy struggling the aftermath of rediscovering himself of who he was before. He is a hypocrite towards himself and his version of justice. Convoy now never gets super emotionally in fights anymore, or he straight up bottled his emotions altogether. His last major fight was Megatron showed him he is not special as he thought he was. Even with the Matrix, he is nothing, and he is just the same as Megatron. It is now up to him how to deal with his placement in the world. Now that Megatron is gone, his physical other half, there is nothing really standing in his way to try to further away from being compared to him. I notice a lot of scenes he has become more aggressive and pushing away other Autobots who want to help him. It wasn't until Roadbuster and those who cared for him came in and helped Convoy to be back on his path and rely on his friends more to defeat the evils of the universe. I think if Convoy was written, given more individuality, and have a goal he wants to succeed in, he would be just the same as Megatron. He sacrificed his own true self for a dream he cannot reach. He makes sure his friends' dreams will come true. That will be talked full in depth in the Megatron portion of the video for part 2. So keep that in mind. Convoy has the belief that anyone can change, even if they're doing for the wrong reason. He gives people a chance even though, in retrospect, a smart and written character would not give support who have hurt people. The smart character is often written as those underdogs where they've been through a lot defeating the villain. When they see the villain ask for forgiveness or asking what they should do, the smart character will leave them alone and tell them to figure out for themselves. The smart character turns a blind eye when the villain calls for help. Convoy giving away his kindness is naive. That decision bites the people who are so kind for another. Thus, he is blindly putting his faith into someone accepting help or use it to betray him later. It is him understanding when these evil characters taking advantage of his kindness is what makes Convoy / Optimus Prime an interesting character study in writing a character who shows kindness. You might say Convoy is too soft on the villain, or they are too gone to be saved. A character who is kind and is written to be betrayed, that part who they are, is heartbreaking. Convoy is written up as someone who showed kindness, but the character on the other end who doesn't need his help, you see he quickly moves on like he has been through this before. By the events of Energon Superlink, I think he slowly lost that part of his willingness to show his love for others. The kindness he used to give isn't the same as it was back then. Back in Armada and Micron Legend. Like, something deeply hurt him since the 10-year gap, and it literally shows how long since. It just feels weird. We literally grew up from the Armada series, but then he still struggles to find something that matters to him. By putting the story 10 years later, even though he doesn't show it, Convoy is tired, but cannot express that feeling to make his teammates worry for him. He's too kind to let that vulnerability slip out. By the way, I am really peeling away his character at this point, as they literally butchered him in the English dub. I'm sorry, I cannot listen to the English audio for the 20th time if I have to. This time, Grand Convoy, the Japanese one, is voiced by Tatsuki Konishi. The change of voice actors is quite jarring, but it makes sense for his character. The Micron legend Torakawa has this Sentai Ranger Kamen Rider as he brings in more Red Ranger energy. So, Akawa's voice feels more naive, yet pleasant to listen to. He sounds like a leader that he keeps the group together. Now the canon is 10 years since the Armada canon. The voice acting is more mature and serious, like after going through so much trauma of what happened in the previous season, Convoy just feels like he no longer giving into the BS Galvatron brings into his massive pitfalls, or never gives emotion in fights anymore since the end of Micron Legend. I think more than ever, Convoy is starting to feel the weight on his shoulders, that his needs are wanting to project someone, and he wants to do it himself. He doesn't understand. He is still conflicted with himself, as he doesn't know what to do. He is going through the darkness alone. It is the fear of losing the things that he loves haunts him, even though he hides that fact away from others. He needs that sense of peace, or knowing his friends will be okay in the end. He disregards his own safety, physically and mentally. It makes his own teammates in a lot of scenes feeling useless, as Convoy no longer trusts in his friends. It creates this balance of uncertainty whenever Convoy would give into the pressure when the weight finally collapsed on him. It happens a lot in this show, and without Kicker stepping in a lot for Convoy, his own teammates are comfortable joining in the fight, helping him to protect their leader and what they believe is right. Without Kicker and Roadbuster influence within Convoy's team, I don't think he would ever survive any encounter with Decepticons at all by himself. Convoy is literally stepping into a minefield whenever he does this, and the consequences literally almost getting himself severely injured or getting himself killed in a lot of fights. Or his worst fears, getting someone else hurt or killed because of his own aggressive personality and going to the fights alone, and not just being emotionally vulnerable to show growing tensions between his group and his friends. For most of the season, he put walls around himself just because it's better that way. It is a matter of time of those burdens collapse on him, and the people who he loved do not put his faith in him anymore, and his cause for a better future. There are a lot of things that I haven't mentioned in the Energon Superlink video of some characters don't come back, like Red Alert, Blur, Scavenger, and Rampage. Even though it's nice, Red Alert did come back for Galaxy Force canon, but in timeline context, that is not our Red Alert. The timeline of why they don't come back, as they're not needed in the story anymore, as they are busy rebuilding Cybertron at the end of Micron Legend. What is depressing that we never get a word of these characters getting a mention again. Like these characters who are in the Armada canon don't matter in the Energon canon. That's what hurts about Energon series and a lot of fans from the show. It is the loss of relationship or the loss of connection that Convoy has, and now he's with a team that he can't fully put his trust besides Jetfire and Hotshot. Those are the ones who stuck around in Convoy's team. This kind of dynamic in Energon does work in the context of Convoy's character, as he just feels alone, yet responsible to take care of his own teammates. It would be nice that these characters, especially his mentor, Scavenger, come back at least. Sorry, Scavenger. I guess not this time. I miss you, though. You're such a goat. I love you. The addition of Roadbuster in Energon as a foil to Convoy's character is brilliant. He sees Roadbuster, a very young Autobot who recently joined the team, or Convoy's team. He sees a bit of his younger self within him. The version of him he used to be undecided and being able to move on from the loss. And a side of him of what he used to be. After events in Armada, it is possible what Doubleface said to him. He refused to accept that darker half, or accepting Megatron and him are the same. Or maybe his own justice is skewed. Wherever the case is, Roadbuster is a character Convoy desires to go back to, a life with less responsibilities, a time not knowing and living in bliss. There is a sense of loss within Convoy that we never seen before. A sense of uncertainty of what would happen when his own story ends, or should I say, a writer ending his story. Throughout the show, Convoy doesn't know what to do and ponders the fact his own purpose for the entire season. You know that's kind of dark for a kid's show to think on that, and that's coming from me. He forgot what it's like to have his own desires and his own feelings since becoming a leader. He questioned himself, his own usefulness to the Autobot cause, his cause and his reason to fight, his reason to live. Was it all worth it in the end? Or is just a means to satisfy a craving Cybertronians have, the desire to fight each other like the previous season states? That feeling ate away at Convoy mentally, and I don't think he has recovered since Armada. I think the audience hasn't either. As the audience, we feel a sense of guilt, or a guilty complex, as Convoy is feeling right now. It is either he doesn't deserve to be a leader, and we're watching a character's kind personality crumble into pieces. Especially how the fight between Megatron went, and what Megatron's last words pierced through Convoy. Megatron seeks the darkness. Convoy finds the light. That stuff never goes away once you learned it. He has delved too deep, as his own fears of not knowing everything's going to be okay. That's what constantly takes over Convoy's mind in this season. There are times in the show where I feel so bad for Convoy. The old man has been through trauma track since Armada, and that load has carried him with him, a very heavy one, that he couldn't put his trust in his own teammates. The moment when he starts easing off the bit and let people back into his heart is one of the most best payoffs I have ever seen in a season. Even though he has to let go of his justice and hatred from the previous season, this season is letting go that part of him that hold him back. The ability to rely on your friends and sticking it towards the end. He was the only one who brought hope back to others. When you're a character written with kindness, they're also the most loneliest character ever written. He was the one who started to lose his way, and his friends showed him the light. Convoy was so focused on a future, a desire he wants to live in peace, and knowing everyone's going to be okay. He forgot what it means to live in the present, and accepting things now. He can't change the future, as it is a fixed time, By accepting a present and changing it, helped him rediscover his dream for a better light. Or a better perspective, you might say. Even though Galaxy Force Convoy is a different convoy entirely, Grand Convoy at the end of his season, his character, I might say, witnessed the end of his character, but also witnessed the birth of a new universe. As Grand Convoy says at the end, overlooking the new sun growing from Unicron's spark, his story has now ended. He found his reason to stay, are the people who were with him the entire time. It is sort of bittersweet that Convoy witnessed the destruction, but also a birth of a new universe. In my opinion, it is the Galaxy Force universe that was made in this episode. Even though we never see this convoy again from the Armada canon, it is nice to see another convoy taking his place. It's a fitting end for Grand Convoy, finding the peace he desired to have. Hey, you made it to the end of the video, part 1, and part 2 is Convoy's other half, as you know, Gavatron. It is something that I really left out of this video, as their dynamic just earned itself another part of the video. We are not done yet, as we have to go through Galaxy Force, and man, I really do express this, I am scared on Galaxy Force and reviewing it. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll put part 2 as fast as I can. Thank you all, and I'll see you over there on the other side. Part 2. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Oh my god, we finally made it! Yes!